Okay, so I bought an iPad Air 2020, but now the question is, should you? It won't be one of those videos where I tell you to buy an iPad instead of a laptop. Instead, I want to talk about why I decided to buy an iPad Air 2020 and if you should be buying an iPad instead of using your laptop. I'm also going to be reviewing this through the lens of a photographer, content creator, and full-time student that doesn't live inside of the Apple ecosystem at all. For those of you who are new to this channel, I'm Bellemare-Alford, a young photographer and filmmaker on a journey to become better at this art. I want to clarify right away that I'm not an Apple fanboy. I actually bought 2 Windows tablets before buying this iPad, but I realized that when it comes time to tablets, the iPad is the best choice simply because of the huge app library and also the very good support for the Apple Pencil. I want to give a quick explanation of why I decided to buy the iPad Air 4th generation instead of buying the iPad Pro 11 inches. The reason is quite simple, and it's that the performances of the iPad Air 4th generation is as good if not better than the performances of the iPad Air 11 inches right now, and it costs hundreds of dollars less. The only reason I would have liked to have the iPad Pro is for more storage, but at 256GB, this should be plenty enough. Let's start by talking about photography because this is the main reason why I decided to buy an iPad. Now don't be scared, I'm not going to start taking pictures using the camera on the iPad, it's actually to manage my media. So in Lightroom alone I have over 105,000 pictures, and just in September I took another 7,000 pictures using my phone. This is a lot of photos to go through. In my opinion, the 11-inch iPad screen is the perfect size for when I need to quickly go through the images and classify them. On my phone, the screen is a little bit too small to see the details, and on my laptop, Lightroom is just painfully slow, especially when I need to sync files from the internet. On the iPad, Lightroom is super snappy, and the high-resolution screen actually allows to see all the details inside of the photos. This is going to save me hours this year, especially that I decided that I want to declutter my library and delete at least half of the pictures that I have inside of it. Another reason why I love an iPad for photography is actually for editing my photos. It's really hard to describe, but using a pen and touch just feels a lot more natural. I also realize that I tend to be more adventurous inside of my edits, and this means I get completely different shots instead of just copy-pasting the same settings like I usually do on my computer because it's faster to do it that way on a computer. If you made it until this point in the video, why don't you go hit that big red subscribe button and also leave a like below to let me know that you're enjoying the content. In my next video, I'm going to talk about my favorite iPad apps for content creators and students that don't live inside of the Apple ecosystem. Now let's talk about video editing because this is one of the places where I was the most disappointed but also the most surprised from the iPad. I want to preface this by saying that I never intended to completely change my video editing workflow to the iPad because it can have some pretty complex timelines, and I know that the iPad isn't the right tool for this. My goal was to edit smaller videos, so like TikTok stories, Instagram stories, Instagram reels, or when I'm traveling around and need to do a quick edit, I think the iPad is great for that. The first day I got the iPad, I went on the store and downloaded Adobe Premiere Rush and started editing some 2.7K footage from my DJI Pocket 2, and it worked great. It was really fun having a pen and my fingers to play around instead of the timeline. Then I tried importing some 4K footage from my phone and it just wouldn't work. The app would crash non-stop and I passed hours online trying to find a solution and nothing worked. I even tried other free apps including iMovie and none of them would support the footage. At this point I was getting quite frustrated because pretty much everybody online seemed to say that they had a great experience editing videos on the iPad Air. I knew most of them were using LumaFusion, but I didn't really want to pay $40 only to discover it wouldn't work either. I finally decided to budge in and buy the app, and wow, I must say, it's incredible. LumaFusion can play 4K footage with no visible lag or no performance hits, even when you add multiple effects on the footage, which is really impressive when you consider that my 2016 MacBook Pro cannot even play 4K instead of Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve without creating proxies first. It's also a lot of fun using pen and touch to edit a video, just like what I said when editing photos. It just feels a lot more natural, and the fact that there's no proxies to be created, it's actually really a lot faster to create a project and just a lot more enjoyable of an experience. Am I going to change my mind when I'm using my iPad to edit some videos? No. The reason I'm so efficient at editing videos on my computer is actually because of the custom keyboard shortcuts, my custom After Effects motion templates, and also the years of experience of editing videos on a computer. The iPad just isn't efficient when you're editing videos because things like just changing the volume, you require multiple touches to get to that setting. I know some of you might point out that I could use a keyboard like this one and use keyboard shortcuts, but when you consider that the keyboard, the iPad, and the pen cost over $1,400 Canadians, I just don't see why you wouldn't buy a MacBook Air with the M1 chip or a pretty good Windows laptop to edit your video. While talking about keyboards, let's talk about the Magic Keyboard from Apple and if it's worth its crazy expensive price. The short answer is no, the long answer is maybe yes. So let's start by the good parts, and it's that it's a really great typing experience. It has good key travel and it's just a very pleasant experience overall using it. I also use the trackpad a lot more than I ever expected, and it's especially useful when you're navigating the web or when you're editing longer documents with it. There's no way to go around the fact that this costs so much. I looked at cheaper alternatives like the Logitech, but I really didn't like the idea of having a bigger case that makes the iPad almost twice as big when using it in iPad mode. If I bought a tablet, it's because I want to have a small form factor, not something that's bigger because I have a case on it all the time. Now, if you put it back on here, there's one thing that most people don't seem to say inside of the reviews, and it's that when you have the iPad inside of the case, there's actually only two positions. You can either have the iPad closed inside of the case, or you can have the case open in typing mode. You cannot use the case in any other way, so you cannot put the iPad on the top here, have the iPad in tent mode, or anything else. So it is very expensive when you consider that you have very limited options with this keyboard. Now this brings me to productivity. As a full-time software engineering student, one of the main reasons to get an iPad is actually to take some better handwritten notes. I will say it right away, the Apple Pencil version 2 is simply incredible. I use Microsoft OneNote to take notes for school, and it works flawlessly on the iPad. It doesn't have all the features that the Windows version has, but it has everything that I need to take some good notes for school. Two other apps that I use all the time are ClickUp and Notion, and I use these apps to stay organized at school and plan all of my YouTube videos. I particularly like the fact that inside of Notion, I can use the scribble mode with the Apple Pencil to take down some notes using handwriting, even though the app doesn't officially handle handwriting. This is a really cool feature. My problem starts when I have to edit anything a little bit more complex, whether it's a Google Docs, an Excel spreadsheet, or some code. There's apps that exist for all of these use cases, but none of the apps are as good as their desktop counterparts. Another problem I have with the iPad is just multitasking in general, so I like the fact that we can have a split screen, and also really like the fact that we can have a window that is open on top of another, like for chat or things like that, but it's just not as efficient as having multiple windows open at the same time on a desktop. I know that by using the keyboard we can fix some of these issues, so if we put the iPad with the keyboard, we can actually use Command Tab to switch between apps just like on the desktop, and also use Command Space to open Spotlight and find some apps pretty quickly or do a web search. But when you take the tablet off of this keyboard, it doesn't work anymore, so it's kind of useless having these features that are meant to be better for multitasking when you cannot use them when you're inside of the tablet mode. Hey, it's editor me here, and I wanted to talk about something I forgot inside of the video, which is the environmental impact of buying a new piece of gear. I want to start by saying what Apple did that is pretty good inside of this iPad. So the first thing is that they used 100% recycled aluminum, 100% recycled solder, and 100% recycled rare elements inside of the speakers. I think this is a really good start, but I cannot wait that Apple and other big companies start making products that are 100% recycled for all the materials inside, not just some parts of it. I also want to remind you that the worst thing for the environment and also your wallet is buying a piece of gear that you're never going to be using. So just think twice before buying a product and make sure that's actually something you're going to use. With all that being said, I really like my iPad Air 2020. Whether it's watching Netflix, watching YouTube, editing some photos, editing some videos, taking notes for school, or planning my videos inside of Notion, I use my iPad Air a lot more than I ever expected. Now let's answer the question of whether this is the right device for you. If you're a content creator and especially a photographer that takes a lot of pictures and from time to time edits some small videos, this is a great device. If you're a student or somebody that wants to take notes but already has a computer, it's also a great device. It might be pretty expensive for a note-taking device, but when you consider you're going to be using it every single day for multiple years, it's actually not that bad. Now, if you're thinking of buying the iPad for some productivity task, I'm sorry to break it for you, but it's just not as good as a computer. This is mainly because the apps are simplified and made for touch. They're not made for more complex scenarios that you might encounter, and where buying a computer is more essential. And at this price, it's easy to get a really good computer for the same price than the iPad. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by hitting the like button below, and also consider subscribing for more content on photography and filmmaking. My next video is going to be about my favorite apps on my iPad for content creators and students. See you in the next one. Bye bye.